In the cold reaches of the Iridian sector, a distant star system held a world that once shimmered with life. Thalia. Its oceans had been a bright blue, teeming with creatures of unimaginable beauty. Its skies had once danced with colors during storms that were gentle and rare. Cities had risen from the land like crystal gardens, full of towers that gleamed in the sun. But now Thalia was dying. Rivers ran thin and poisoned, winds howled with unnatural rage, and once proud cities were reduced to ruins. The planet shuddered under the relentless assault of the Sareth, a terrifying alien empire that consumed worlds without mercy. The Thalians, a gentle and intelligent race, had never known war in their long history. They were brilliant thinkers, careful engineers, and peaceful explorers. But their bodies were frail, designed for a planet of balance and beauty. The Sareth brought fire and destruction in scales that Thalians could not endure. They were losing everything: their families, their culture, and the very air they breathed. In desperation, the Thalian Council sent out a pan-galactic call for help. The plea was simple, desperate, and heartbreaking. To any who hear us, their message began, our people face extinction. We beg for aid. Please come to our world. Save us from annihilation. The transmission carried not just words, but fear, hope, and the quiet prayers of millions. The message traveled through light years, crossing star systems and reaching countless civilizations. Some received it and ignored it, unwilling to risk themselves. Others hesitated, calculating costs and benefits, weighing politics over compassion. Even the Galactic Council, known for intervening in crises, sent only a cold acknowledgement. Their words were polite but empty. Thalia was alone, yet in the dark, distant spiral of a small, overlooked galaxy, there was a planet that the Thalians had only heard of in cautionary tales. Earth. A world so harsh, so unforgiving, that it had earned the nickname Deathworld. Its humans were known as survivors of impossible catastrophes. Their planet had oceans that could boil, storms that could rip mountains from their roots, and predators that hunted without mercy. And yet humans endured. They had built empires from ashes, tamed fire, and had learned to thrive in chaos. The Thalians had heard warnings. Deathworlders are dangerous. They are violent. They do not play by rules. They will burn, break, and crush anything in their way. But desperation had no time for caution. Their children were dying. Their culture was vanishing, and their world was bleeding. Any hope was worth grasping, even if it came wrapped in danger. Days passed. The Thalians watched the skies anxiously, scanning for signs of help. Then, on a pale lavender morning, it happened. Across the horizon, massive ships appeared, moving with precision, but leaving trails of chaos behind them. Their hulls were scarred, showing signs of countless battles fought and won. From these ships, humans poured out. They did not move quietly. They shouted orders, ran drills, and carried weapons of terrifying design. To the Thalians, it was a storm made flesh. The human leader emerged, and even at a distance, she radiated authority. Her uniform was worn, her face scarred, yet her eyes burned with a light that made even the bravest Thalians feel small. She spoke not with courtesy, but with a simple, sharp command. We are here to end this. Stand aside or die with them. For a moment, the Thalians felt fear. These humans were unlike anyone they had ever known. But beneath the fear was awe. These beings, born of a death world, carried an unshakable courage that seemed to burn brighter than any sun. As humans spread out, assessing terrain and fortifying positions, it became clear they did not come to negotiate. They had come to fight. Every movement, every gesture carried a promise. Those who threatened life would be met with overwhelming force. The Thalians, who had never wielded weapons of war, watched in stunned silence. For the first time in weeks, hope returned to Thalia. It was raw, fierce, and dangerous hope, the kind that could make the difference between life and death. The humans were unpredictable, violent, and unstoppable, but they were here. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. The Sareth would soon discover why the Deathworlders of Earth were not to be underestimated. They would learn, as the Thalians were beginning to understand, that survival on a Deathworld forged creatures capable of facing impossible odds and winning. And for the Thalians, hope had finally arrived. The skies of Thalia burned with color as the Sareth fleet appeared on the horizon. Dark, jagged ships moved like shadows across the violet clouds, each one bristling with weapons designed to destroy entire cities. Panic spread among the Thalian population. Families clutched one another, children's eyes wide with fear, and elders whispered prayers to gods they weren't sure existed. For weeks, hope had seemed like a fragile dream, but now it was tested by the true face of annihilation. From the human ships, the sound of engines and comms filled the air. The humans moved with surprising coordination, despite their appearance of chaotic energy. They were unlike any force the Thalians had imagined. Humans carried weapons that fired in staccato bursts of deadly energy, vehicles that rolled across the broken streets at impossible speeds, and armor that seemed to shrug off attacks that would have destroyed anything else. The first clash was sudden. A Seraph attack ship swooped down on a Thalian city, its claws tearing through concrete and steel. Just as panic reached its peak, a squad of humans struck. They moved like lightning, leaping from drop pods, their weapons roaring. Within moments, the attacking ship was surrounded. Humans climbed onto its hull, planting explosive charges with terrifying precision. The Seraph ship exploded in a brilliant eruption of fire and metal, casting a red glow over the city. The Thalians watched in awe. These beings were not only brave, they were unstoppable. The humans did not hesitate. They did not question orders. Every move was calculated for survival, for victory. And yet, beneath the efficiency, there was a wildness, a spark of chaos that made them dangerous even to the Seraph. One Thalian child, hidden behind the ruins of her home, clutched her mother's hand. They are like gods," she whispered, her voice trembling. Her mother shook her head. "No," she said, tears streaming down her face. "They are something greater. They are humans. They survive when all hope is gone. They fight when no one else will." The battle spread across Thalia's cities. The humans moved from street to street, engaging the Seraph in ways the Thalians could not comprehend. Some fought from the skies, piloting jet-like crafts that darted through enemy fire. Others moved on foot, wielding weapons that seemed to bend light and gravity. Explosions shook the ground, fire illuminated the night, and still the humans pressed forward. Despite the chaos, the Thalians noticed something remarkable. The humans never abandoned a civilian. Even when surrounded, they formed shields around the unarmed, dragging them to safety before returning to the fight. One human soldier was seen carrying 3 Thalian children on his back while firing his weapon with the other hand. To the Thalians, it was unimaginable. These creatures of war also carried mercy. The Seraph were not prepared for this. They had faced countless civilizations and crushed them with ease, but humans were different. Where the Seraph struck with precision and terror, humans struck with unpredictable force, adapting instantly to every attack. The Seraph could not anticipate their tactics. Each time a ship appeared, it was met with an entirely new strategy, a human solution born from survival instinct rather than logic. In the midst of battle, the human leader, scarred, strong, and unyielding, stood on a ridge overlooking the city. Her eyes scanned the battlefield. Her voice cut across the comms. "Push forward. Protect them. No one dies today if we can help it." The Thalians, watching from behind cover, felt emotions they had not experienced for years: hope, awe, and a growing trust. These humans, born of a death world, were not saviors in the gentle sense. They were saviors in the way of storms, fierce, unstoppable, and terrifying. But they were here. They had come when everyone else had turned away. As night fell, the battle continued. The humans had begun to reclaim the city, driving back the Seraph with relentless determination. Fires burned, but the people were alive. Streets that once echoed with terror now rang with the sound of hope. A Thalian elder standing among a group of survivors whispered to herself, eyes wet with tears. They came when no one else would. We will live because of them. We will survive because of humans." In that moment, the humans were no longer just warriors. They were legends, forged in the harshest crucible of their own world, and now bringing their strength to a planet that had almost given up. The Thalians began to believe something they had never dared to before, that even in the face of total destruction, there were forces in the galaxy capable of standing against darkness, and the humans were just getting started. The sun rose over Thalia like a bleeding wound, casting pale light over a city still smoking from the previous night's battle. The humans had pushed the Seraph back, but the enemy was far from defeated. Ships still hovered over the horizon, their jagged silhouettes like predators waiting to strike again. The Thalians had seen the humans' power, but they did not yet understand its full scope. Human soldiers moved through the ruins with a strange rhythm. as if the chaos around them were music they alone could hear. Their steps were fast, precise, and terrifyingly calm. Some carried weapons that fired beams of pure light. Others drove armored vehicles that bulldozed through debris with unstoppable force. Each human moved with a deadly confidence born of experience, of having faced death countless times and come back stronger. A young Thalian, Ryan followed the humans at a safe distance, his heart pounding with both fear and wonder. He had never seen warriors like them before. They were not like the Seraph, who struck with cold precision, nor like other galactic armies who relied on rules and formation. Humans fought with unpredictability, improvisation, and a wild courage that seemed to defy logic itself. Ryan watched as a human soldier lifted a fallen Thalian from the rubble. The soldier's armor was scorched, his face streaked with blood and dirt, but he did not hesitate. With one arm, he carried the Thalian child. With the other, he fired at approaching Seraph drones, tearing them apart with rapid bursts of energy. To Ryan, it seemed impossible that one being could do so much and still move forward. The humans were everywhere. They had split into squads, some holding streets and alleyways, others striking deep into enemy lines. Every move was calculated yet flexible. They adapted instantly to the Seraph's attacks, turning desperation into advantage. It was brutal, fast, and unrelenting. In the command center, the human leader watched multiple holographic screens, her eyes scanning every angle of the battlefield. Her voice, calm yet fierce, carried through comms to every squad. Do not stop. Protect them. Crush anything that threatens life. Every Thalian saved is a victory. Every Seraph dead is one less for their empire. Ryan felt a lump in his throat. The humans did not fight for glory, nor for territory, nor for politics. They fought because it was the right thing to do. Their courage was raw, their compassion real, and their determination absolute. For the first time, Ryan understood why they were called Deathworlders. Survival had shaped them into something far beyond ordinary warriors. Hours passed, and the battle intensified. The Seraph unleashed their heaviest weapons, plasma cannons that tore streets apart, missiles that could level entire blocks, and monstrous war machines that stomped through the city like living mountains. Yet the humans pressed on. They used ingenuity, speed, and raw strength to turn every attack into an advantage. One human engineer, a wiry man with goggles scorched black from explosions, rigged an abandoned building to collapse on a Seraph walker. The machine fell with a thunderous crash, crushing the enemy under tons of rubble. Another squad set up energy barriers around civilians, creating safe corridors for evacuation, all while under fire. The humans were relentless, fearless, and deadly, and the Thalians were learning to hope again. Ryan finally approached the human leader, drawn by a mixture of awe and desperation. She noticed him immediately, her sharp eyes meeting his. For a moment, she simply studied him, as if weighing his fear and hope alike. Then, with a small nod, she said, "Stay behind the lines, watch, learn, remember this day. We will survive, and you will too." Ryan felt tears sting his eyes. He had never heard anyone speak with such certainty. Here was a being, scarred and human, standing in a world not her own, facing death with unwavering resolve, and promising life to those too weak to fight. As the day wore on, the humans continued their counterattack. Street by street, building by building, they drove the Seraph back. Each victory came at a cost. Humans were wounded, some fell, but they never stopped. And the Thalians, who had felt powerless for so long, began to see a new reality. Survival was possible, and hope was not an abstract dream. By evening, the battle had shifted. The Seraph forces were retreating, regrouping beyond the city's edge. The humans did not pursue recklessly. They regrouped, treated their wounded, and strengthened defenses. They moved with the calm assurance of predators who knew they were in control, yet remained vigilant for the next threat. Ryan looked over the city. Smoke rose from shattered buildings, but the streets were alive with people. Families emerged from hiding. Children ran to the humans with laughter and tears, and the Thalians' whispered prayers of gratitude filled the air. For the first time, Thalia dared to believe. They had been abandoned by the galaxy, left to face extinction alone, but the humans had come. The Deathworlders of Earth had answered the call, and in their wake, hope burned brighter than any star in the sky. Ryan whispered to himself, almost afraid to believe. They came. They really came, and they will not let us fall. The night over Thalia was restless. Fires burned across shattered districts, their glow reflected in the eyes of the survivors huddled in temporary shelters. The Seraph had not been defeated, they had only been slowed. Rumors spread quickly. More ships were coming, larger and deadlier than before. Panic threatened to rise again, but the humans remained calm, moving through the city like living shields. The human leader stood atop a crumbling tower, overlooking the streets below. Her face was streaked with soot and blood, but her eyes held a fire that refused to dim. She spoke softly to her second-in-command, a man whose armor bore the scars of countless battles. They will come harder this time, but so will we. Prepare every street, every alley, every building. We do not wait for them, we meet them head-on. The humans did not need orders to act. They had already fortified positions, set traps, and evacuated civilians. Each human moved with lethal precision, yet every action protected the innocent. To the Thalians watching, it seemed impossible. These beings could destroy a city block in seconds, yet they treated every life as sacred. Rian followed at a cautious distance, his heart pounding as he observed the humans preparing for the incoming attack. He could feel the tension in the air, a tight rope stretched between hope and terror. Even now he could not comprehend their courage. When the first Seraph vessels pierced the darkness, the humans were ready. Energy cannons flared, missiles streaked across the sky, and humans in jetpacks darted through enemy lines. Every attack was countered with uncanny speed and ingenuity. One squad ignited a series of controlled explosions, creating walls of fire that funneled the Seraph into traps. Another group hacked enemy drones mid-flight, turning their own weapons against them. The Thalians gasped and whispered prayers as buildings shook and debris rained down. Yet the humans moved through it all as if born from the storm itself. Their screams were not of fear, but of focus, determination, and rage at an enemy who would not yield. In the midst of battle, Rian saw a human soldier carry a fallen Thalian across the battlefield. His legs were burning from explosive debris, his armor dented and scorched. Yet he moved without hesitation. He threw the Thalian to safety, then returned immediately to the fight, leaping over debris and firing relentlessly. The young Thalian felt something shift inside him, an understanding that survival could be fierce, unrelenting, and merciful all at once. The human's leader made her move next. She led a small squad through the heart of the enemy lines, aiming for the Seraph command vessel hovering above the city. Missiles and energy beams struck around them, yet they pressed forward. Every human in her squad fought not for glory, not for conquest, but to protect lives. Rian followed in awe, knowing he could not keep up, yet unable to look away. He saw explosions throw humans through the air, only for them to rise and continue fighting. He saw buildings collapse around them, yet they moved with the certainty that nothing could stop them. Hours passed in a blur of light and fire. The Seraph forces were relentless, but so were the humans. Each time an enemy soldier advanced, a human countered with ingenuity and sheer strength. Every setback was met with adaptation. Every loss was met with resilience. By dawn, the battle had shifted once again. The Seraph were retreating, more cautious this time, unsure of what force had met them. The humans regrouped, their casualties carefully tended to, their positions strengthened. The Thalians emerged from hiding, their eyes wide with gratitude and disbelief. An elder Thalian approached the human leader, voice trembling. Why do you fight for us?" The leader looked down, her eyes softening for the first time. "Because someone has to. Because life is worth fighting for. You called for help and we came. That is all the reason we need." Rian felt tears sting his eyes. In that moment he realized what the humans truly were. Not just warriors, not just survivors, but beings capable of hope, courage, and compassion in ways the galaxy had never seen. They were Deathworlders, yes, forged by fire, but also guardians, carrying the strength of their harsh world into the hearts of others. For the first time, Thalia felt a glimmer of certainty. They might yet survive. The humans had shown them that even the darkest night could be turned by courage, skill, and the refusal to give up. And somewhere deep inside, Rian knew this was only the beginning. The Seraph would return, stronger, more vicious, but so would the humans. And as long as they stood, Thalia had a chance. The streets of Thalia were scarred, torn by fire and battle, yet alive with cautious hope. The humans had held the city, forcing the Seraph to withdraw, but no one believed the war was over. From the horizon, a shadow loomed, a fleet far larger than any the humans or Thalians had seen before. Their numbers alone could crush a planet, Panic began to creep back among the Thalians, whispers of despair echoing through the rubble. Ryan followed the humans as they prepared for the incoming attack. Their calmness was unsettling. While the Thalians trembled, these Deathworlders moved with efficiency, checking weapons, distributing supplies, and issuing commands that carried the weight of certainty. Their leader, standing on a high ridge, surveyed the skies. Her eyes burned with determination, unblinking, unyielding. "They are coming," she said, voice steady, almost gentle despite the chaos. "We do not wait. We strike first." The humans moved swiftly, splitting into squads. Some set traps along the streets while others prepared mobile defenses. They worked like a single organism, each human anticipating the next, each action synchronized with deadly precision. Ryan could barely comprehend it. How could a group so small move so fast, so smartly against an enemy so large? As the Seraph fleet approached, the humans launched their counterstrike. Explosions lit the sky. Missiles streaked through the darkness and energy beams cut through enemy ships like lightning. The Seraph faltered at the first human assault, confusion rippling through their ranks. For the first time, they realized these were not ordinary defenders. These were Earth's Deathworlders, a species forged in the harshest crucibles, fearless, relentless, and adaptable. Then, the humans discovered something horrifying. Hidden among the Seraph ships were massive war machines, far larger than any battle tanks or ships they had encountered. These were not mere soldiers. They were mobile factories of death, capable of producing more weapons, more soldiers, and spreading destruction faster than the humans could destroy them. The Thalians watched in silent terror as the humans faced these machines without hesitation. Ryan's heart sank as he saw humans preparing for an assault on the largest of these war machines. "They will die," he whispered to himself, fear gripping him. But even as the humans charged, Ryan noticed the difference between them and every other species in the galaxy. Fear did not stop them. Pain did not slow them. Death was not a deterrent, it was a challenge. Explosions shook the streets as humans engaged the war machine directly. They hurled grenades, launched rockets, and fired energy weapons at weak points in the armor. Some climbed onto its hull, planting charges while dodging lasers that could vaporize them in an instant. The machine staggered under their assault, sparks flying from ruptured panels, smoke curling from broken joints. Rian felt tears sting his eyes as a young human, no older than he was, dodged falling debris to shield a Thalian family. She carried a child in one arm while firing at approaching Seraph soldiers with the other. "They are incredible," Ryan whispered, awe and fear mixing in his voice. Hours passed. The humans did not falter. They pushed deeper into the heart of the Seraph formation, dismantling war machines one by one, turning the enemy's strength against itself. The Thalians, watching from cover, could hardly believe their eyes. These Deathworlders were not just fighters, they were salvation made flesh. Finally, the largest war machine exploded in a towering inferno. Debris rained down and the humans regrouped without pause, ready for the next assault. Exhaustion etched into their faces, yet their eyes burned with the same unyielding fire. The Thalian Council, observing from a safe distance, felt something shift in their hearts. For the first time, they realized that hope was not fragile. It was alive. It was relentless. And it came in the form of humans, a species that had faced death on a planet that had tried to destroy them and had survived every time. Ryan approached the human leader, voice trembling. Why do you risk so much for us? You barely know us." The leader looked at him, her expression softening just enough to reveal the depth of her conviction. "Because we know what it means to fight for life, to survive when the odds are impossible. You called for help and we came. That is reason enough. That is what it means to be human." Ryan felt something swell in his chest. Pride, gratitude, awe, all mingled together into a feeling he had never known. The humans were not gods, not invincible. They were flawed, scarred, mortal. Yet their courage, their willingness to fight against impossible odds, made them larger than any being in the galaxy. As the humans regrouped and prepared for the next wave, the Thalians whispered among themselves, sharing hope like a precious flame. They had been abandoned by most of the galaxy, left to die alone. But the Deathworlders of Earth had answered. They had come not for glory, not for politics, but because life mattered. And now, Thalia would survive. The sky over Thalia darkened once more, filled with the roar of approaching Seraph warships. Their numbers were overwhelming, more than the humans or Thalians had ever seen. The city, already scarred from weeks of battle, trembled under the threat of annihilation. Fear gripped the Thalians, whispering to them that their end had come, but the humans were ready. Standing like storm-forged warriors, every scar on their bodies a story of survival. The human leader climbed atop a shattered building, surveying the battlefield. Her face was streaked with soot and blood, but her eyes burned brighter than the suns above. She raised her voice, carrying it over the chaos to every squad. This is the final stand. Protect the innocent. Fight with everything you have. Today we show them that life is not theirs to take. And the humans moved as one. Some took positions along streets, others climbed rooftops, and still more piloted their craft. Weaving through enemy fire with precision and audacity, every movement was calculated yet instinctive. Each human knew that failure was not an option. Every Thalian life was a reason to fight, and the humans carried that weight as if it were their own. Rian followed at a safe distance, watching in awe. Humans charged into impossible situations, dodging lasers, leaping over fire and dismantling Sereth soldiers with brutal efficiency. He saw them saving Thalian families even as buildings collapsed around them, risking their lives without hesitation. For Rian, hope had become a living force, moving and breathing with the humans themselves. The Sereth unleashed their heaviest weapons. Energy cannons tore through streets and massive war machines stomped forward, crushing debris and life alike. But the humans adapted instantly. They created barriers, rerouted attacks, and used the city's rubble as traps, turning destruction into advantage. Every assault met with resistance. Every attack countered with ingenuity. One human engineer, covered in soot and blood, rigged a collapsing tower to fall precisely on a Sereth war machine. The structure crumbled with a deafening roar, sending the machine toppling into the streets. Another squad fired a coordinated salvo of missiles, obliterating enemy drones before they could strike civilians. Each human acted not for glory, but because it was the only way to save lives. Amid the chaos, Rian saw the human leader confront the largest Sereth war machine herself. She moved like a force of nature, weaving between blasts, planting explosives at critical points and rallying nearby humans to strike with precision. The Thalians watched in disbelief. This human was facing death directly and refusing to bow. Explosions shook the ground and the human leader was thrown back, but she rose immediately, ignoring the pain. She climbed onto the machine, planting the final charge. "For life," she shouted, voice ringing over the battlefield. The war machine erupted in fire, tearing apart metal and fuel alike. Its destruction sent shockwaves through the remaining Sereth forces, giving the humans and Thalians a crucial advantage. Rian felt tears streaming down his face. He had seen death, fear, and loss, but never courage like this. The humans were not invincible. They were battered, bleeding, and exhausted, but they were unstoppable because they refused to surrender. Every life they saved, every attack they countered, was proof that hope could survive against any odds. The Sereth began to retreat, their forces scattered and demoralized. Humans pressed forward, not to slaughter, but to secure the city, rescue survivors, and prepare for any return. The streets were littered with destruction, but alive with life. Families reunited, children laughed and cried, and the Thalians whispered thanks to beings they had once feared. Rian approached the human leader once more. You risked everything for us. Why?" he asked, voice trembling. She looked at him, exhaustion in her eyes, but a fierce light still burning. Because someone had to. Because life is precious. Because survival is never given. It's earned, fought for, and defended. We are humans. This is what we do. The Thalians watched her, and for the first time they truly understood. The humans of Earth were called Deathworlders for a reason. They survived worlds that should have destroyed them. They fought impossible odds and prevailed. They protected the weak and challenged the strong. They were more than warriors. They were hope incarnate. As the sun rose over Thalia, casting light on a battered but alive city, Rian realized that the humans had changed everything. They had not only saved a planet, but they had also ignited a fire in the hearts of the Thalians, a belief that survival was possible, that courage could overcome fear, and that life was worth fighting for no matter the cost. The humans had come when all others had turned away. They had stood against annihilation itself, and in their wake, they left something more powerful than victory, A legacy of hope, strength, and courage that would never be forgotten, Rian whispered to himself. Voice shaking with awe and gratitude, the Deathworlders came, and they saved us. They really saved us. Thalia was quiet for the first time in months. The fires had been extinguished, the rubble cleared, and the streets filled again. Not with fear, but with cautious life. The Seraph had retreated, their forces scattered, leaving behind a planet scarred but alive. And at the heart of it all were the humans, the Deathworlders of Earth, standing among the Thalians, battle-worn but unbowed. Rian walked through the streets with other children, their eyes wide with wonder. Humans were everywhere, tending to the wounded, repairing buildings, teaching the Thalians how to rebuild defenses, and even sharing stories of survival from their own harsh world. To the Thalians, it seemed impossible that such beings could endure so much and still carry hope in their hearts. The human leader moved among the people, her presence both commanding and comforting. She spoke to the Thalians not as a conqueror but as a guardian. Your world is not lost, she said. We will help you stand again. But remember, strength is not only weapons and machines. It is courage, compassion, and the will to survive even when all seems hopeless. Rian watched her, feeling a mixture of awe and gratitude. He remembered the first day the humans arrived, their raw energy, their fearlessness, the way they carried life through the chaos of war. And now he saw something more. The patience to rebuild, the humility to help, and the determination to leave the Thalians stronger than before. In the city square, a small ceremony was held. Thalian leaders and humans stood together, acknowledging the unity that had saved the planet. The council spoke, tears in their eyes, gratitude in every word. We called for help and feared we would find none. But the children of Earth came. They fought when all hope seemed lost. They saved our families, our cities, our very lives. We owe them more than words can express. The humans did not seek praise. They simply nodded, their faces tired but filled with quiet pride. One soldier, resting his rifle against a building, looked at the crowd and smiled. We do what we must, he said softly. Life is worth the fight, always. Over the following weeks, Thalia began to heal. Humans worked alongside Thalians, teaching them techniques for defense and survival, sharing knowledge from their harsh planet. The Thalians learned quickly, inspired not only by necessity, but by the example of these incredible beings who had come from a distant, unforgiving world to protect them. Rian, standing with a group of friends, tried to imagine the humans' lives on Earth, how they had endured storms, famine, and predators beyond imagination, how they had survived wars that would have broken others, and yet here they were, giving everything to save strangers on a distant planet. His heart swelled with a new understanding of courage, one that went beyond fear, beyond survival. One evening, as the twin sons of Thalia sat over a healing city, Rian sat with the human leader on the steps of a restored building. He asked, voice small and trembling, "Will you stay?" She looked at him, eyes softening. "No," she said gently. "Earth calls us back. But remember this, courage is not just in those who fight battles. It is in everyone who refuses to give up. You have it in you." "You always did." Rian nodded, understanding more than words could express. The humans would leave, but their legacy would remain. Thalia had been saved not only by weapons and strategy, but by the spirit of the Deathworlders, their unbreakable will, their courage in the face of impossible odds, their refusal to abandon those in need. The first human ships lifted off, engines roaring and lights fading into the stars. The Thalians watched in silence, tears and gratitude mingling in their hearts. They had been given a gift greater than life itself, the knowledge that in a vast, uncaring galaxy, there were beings willing to fight for what was right. Rian turned to his friends, eyes shining. "We will never forget them," he whispered. "They showed us that survival is possible. They showed us courage. They showed us hope." And as the humans disappeared into the sky, the city of Thalia began to breathe again. Children laughed, families embraced, and a sense of life returned to streets that had known only fear. The Thalians had survived because someone dared to answer their call, because the Deathworlders of Earth had come, and they had changed everything. Long after the humans had gone, stories of their courage spread across Thalia. Songs were sung, tales were told, and children grew up dreaming of the beings who had walked through fire to protect strangers. The Deathworlders had come, fought, and left. But their spirit, their strength, and their hope would never be forgotten. And in the quiet moments, when the wind swept through the rebuilt streets, the Thalians would whisper to themselves, a promise carried on their hearts. If the Deathworlders came for us, then we too can face anything.